Billiken fans, welcome back. It's Zach Miller and Peter Hale. It's the Midtown Madness Podcast. Before we get going, thank you so much for listening. If you're watching on YouTube, which a lot of you have been lately, don't forget to hammer that like and subscribe button as well as the bell icon to get notified whenever a new episode drops. By the way, a ton of people watching on YouTube compared to a recent podcast history. Please hit subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, because I know a lot of you aren't subscribed. It's season 4. Once again, the Midtown Madness Podcast is brought to you by Two Men and a Garden. Pete, I hear a lot of advertisements for a lot of really dumb things, and none of that is coming out of this show. We don't try to sell you any useless monthly subscription box. No. Unless Two Men in a Garden want to institute a monthly subscription, then we'll sell that. But yeah, it's Two Men in a Garden salsa. That is what we bring you every week, and they bring us to you every week as well. It's local, it tastes amazing, and they've got all the flavors to suit your individual salsa preferences. You can pick up their many products at any local grocery store or online at twomeningarden.com, which if you're particular about your salsa, that's where you want to go. Follow them on social media at Two Men Salsa on Instagram and Twitter. Pete, I almost said, you could pick up some Two Men in a Garden salsa for a last minute white elephant, rob your neighbor gift exchange. I'm taking it as mine, honestly. So if my family who's there listening, they now know, they will know who gave out the Two Men in a Garden.
Yeah, it should be pretty obvious, I think, if either of us, if us are in such a gift exchange, where that's coming from.
Pete, we got a lot of feedback the last couple episodes. Wait, I said this last time, didn't I? I did say that.
I think so.
Yeah. Look, if there's anything, we talk about on the show, you think we should talk about more, think we should talk about less, something that we may have never talked about, hop in the comment section, tweet at us, DM us. Unless you're a player on the team, please stop DMing us. Don't do that. That's a bad idea. Let's talk about men's basketball and a few things before we get going with the game this week. The Abou Magassa situation has reached its, I guess, finality for the season.
I guess so. I mean, I guess I should say up front that I was traveling with my kids this week and had very, very, very little free time, which means I missed almost all of whatever the fan conversation was this week on the forums, on social media, wherever. I didn't see much of it, but I did catch this, Zach, and I gotta say, I don't know if Rammer misspoke and just coincidentally got it right, or if he knew all along and then wasn't supposed to say anything and then reacted to us catching it and talking about it last time. But we did hear SLU released a statement through Stu Durando indicating that Abou Magassa would not be eligible this season. And I gotta say, this is just it kind of feels like this pattern has played out a few times this season already, and it's kind of annoying.
It really is. I mean, oh, cool. I heard you say something. You say you didn't say it, and then a press release indicating. I mean, you have the Bruce Zhang situation. That one was not even SLU didn't even say it. They just, I don't know, dude. I don't understand, and I don't really understand how this came about recently. Is there a thing where you can, because it doesn't sound like, I mean, were finals over? I don't really understand how it's a new thing. I don't, especially when the clarification from Stu was, this was based on the coursework he did in France. I don't know how you thought he could be eligible, at the end of this semester.
Yeah, I don't understand it at all either, because at least with like Ellis, remember
Yeah.
that back in the day, we found out they didn't want to take, what was it, like a pass fail credit or something like that.
Yeah.
So they suspended him for the first 9 games of the season, but we kind of knew like what it was and why and how long it would be, sort of thing. We didn't just hear on the 20th of December, it's not going to happen this year, right? Like I don't understand the timing or anything, but once again, the lack of transparency around it, even the just the most basic transparency around it, leaves us asking questions rather than having anything to kind of report on and debate. And that's what really frustrates me about the situation.
Uh,
This is yet another opportunity for SLU to scapegoat the NCAA and just say, we don't agree with this. Here's
I think
what.
they kind of did too. So I wanted to get into that
Yeah.
because I'm trying to find the article, and of course I'm going to get whatevered. But what do you call it? Behind the paywall. But like I feel like Travis said something about this through Stu. What? Okay, I'm sorry, guys. This is my fault. I'm used to copying pasting on this keyboard with my work computer. Or on this keyboard with my work computer, but I'm using it on my Mac. Let's see. Yes. Although freshman Abou Magassa was ruled ineligible, I'm trying to see because he said, uh, as it now stands, Ford will have the bulk of the roster expected to move into A10 play. The only missing player will be Magassa, who did not meet the NCAA's initial eligibility requirement. We went through appeals and all sorts of things and thought we presented everything we needed. For some reason, they did not give the waiver. I don't agree with it. He had answered the questions they asked and we thought it put him in the right situation. I've a waiver like that again, that doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. I don't know either. Maybe, yeah, maybe he just meant like a ruling on eligibility. I'm
Right.
not really sure.
I
Yeah.
think everybody is kind of
Yeah. We call
defaulted to
everything a
certain.
waiver.
Yeah. I don't understand appeals. Like I mean, is that like Pete, you've been around it. I don't know about an appeal on an eligibility, like the initial eligibility requirement.
No, I mean, we had international players when I was there, but I don't remember anything being this much of a problem, right? Like Isaac and Ian, and I'm trying to think of who else would have been around at the time. I don't remember any.
Latimer. No, he was before you.
Latimer left right before I came. So I don't remember any of them having anything that was like kind of held up, and had to go through an appeals process or anything like that. The only one that from my time would have been Fisher and his final season of eligibility, because he transferred with Romar from Pepperdine and needed a waiver to play one more season, and he did end up getting it, but that was the only thing I can think of, not an international player.
Just weird, weird all the way around, and it's super odd that it came out the week after the Rammer. Was it the second game after, or because it was during the or before the Hofstra game, and then we had a one home game, and then this one.
Yeah, yeah, that's about right. I
And
think less than 2 weeks the whole cycle played out basically.
I mean, I assume that the school was on break, so I can understand being at the end of semester where if you say, okay, like he had some coursework to do here at SLU to become eligible based on, if because if that was the thing, did he have to take like pre-college algebra, college whatever? Because I had to do it because I'm dumb as shit. I had to take a pre-college algebra or something like that, going into a community college. So, I mean, I've heard of that before, but yeah, I just don't. That's not the way they're framing it. Is that he had work to do here? It was about going through an appeals process, which, I mean, it seems kind of black and white, and with Cody Ellis, it was we knew about it before the season.
Right. That's right. Like we knew it was going to be 9 games.
Yeah, I don't necessarily I don't get it. I don't, and of course I mean Stu's gonna stick by whatever he's reporting, and that's fine. But I just I no longer trust the word. I'm not saying everything's a scandal, but I'm just saying that they're not being truthful in a lot of different ways, and I think it's starting to come to light more and more.
I mean, if they would just be upfront and just say, here's where we are in the process, here's what we're waiting for. Like
Yeah,
I don't
it
know.
goes back to, and it continues, and we're going to talk about the North Carolina State game, but like Billiken Athletics Twitter account, and I know people will get on about how, oh, it's just Twitter, blah 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 blah. That is the zero cost marketing. That is zero cost marketing. A tweet, not necessarily the content of your tweet, but like Billiken Athletics retweets halftime score of NC State from the St. Louis men's basketball account, then retweet it from the Billiken Athletics account. They did not retweet the final score tweet.
Yeah.
It's more of like the hiding, the trying to only report the good. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just feel like they're scared of their own shadow sometimes.
I just feel like being upfront and transparent about all of this would create fewer problems for them, and it would create less tension and frustration among the fans.
Yeah, I agree. Fans they just want you to connect with them, to make them feel included, and I think that's kind of where besides the on-court results, I think not making the fans be included in this whatever attitude they bring forward now has been a mistake. And if you want to, I don't know how you do it. That's not but you have to engage with the fans and make them a part of it, not put a wall between them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because especially like based on the one quote you read, it sounds like everybody's frustrated here. The player, the coach, the administration. It's like, we share that, right?
yes,
Like let's be on the same page.
yes, absolutely. 82-70 loss for the Billikens Wednesday, the 20th at North Carolina State. Pete, tell me if you heard this one before. The Billikens led at halftime, and then they lost. Yeah, they led by 3 points at halftime, Pete, and I was very, very happy with that first half.
Yeah, it wasn't a pretty first half, but you kind of felt like they did enough like they did enough to put themselves in a position to win, right? Like it was, neither team was shooting the ball well. I think they were a combined, 1 of 15 from 3 after the first half or something gross like that.
Yeah.
And I think that was the only 3 that SLU ended up hitting in the game, but SLU just did enough of the little things. Yes, we were only up 3 at half, and it wasn't like we were up 13, and it was one of those double-digit leads that gets coughed up. But nevertheless, it's still frustrating when that lead, I think it grew to what, as high as 19 or 20, Zach, on NC State's part.
Oh man, I don't have that in front of me. But
somebody
yeah,
said 20.
like
I remember it being 19 specifically, and it ended up being 12. I know was a funny number for a lot of people because I want to say the spread was 12.5 coming into this game. So SLU did end up covering, but it was just, I don't know, Zach. It was another one of those frustrating games. Speaking of that 3-point shooting in the first half, NC State went 0 for 8 from the arc, and I watched this with my buddy Tim. We were kind of on delay because of some other obligations during the actual game time. By the way, Central Time, 6:00 start is way too early. It's just way too early. I can't watch a game at 6 p.m.
no, I know.
Life is going on. Anyway, they're missing every 3 in the first half, right? 0 for 8. And Tim and I are laughing, and we're like, it's not SLU's vaunted 3-point defense here, man. Like they were missing wide open looks. So we're like, number one, it's not the defense. Number two, it's not going to go that way in the second half, right? And sure enough, they go 9 of 17 from three in the second half and completely reversed the trend from the first half. And that was one of the two key differences of this game, with SLU going 1 of 12. And Zach, I got to ask you, when SLU goes 1 of 12 from three, are you more bothered by the makes or the attempts figure there?
Only when they go 1 of 12. I have no idea, man, because you could conceivably on that 13th shot start to heat up. But I think it's interesting because there's a narrative that's built around like a game where you do lead and you do give up the lead where Travis talked about how the pressure got to them and they tired, and that's the narrative. But like you said, those 3-point shots were wide open that NC State was missing,
Mm-hmm.
and they continued to be wide open the rest of the game. So it's one of those things where you're like, dude, you can try to spin that to where we just got tired, but I'm not gonna buy that. The NC State just finally started shooting well.
Right. Yeah. And that's the thing that has kind of killed me a lot of this season is we faced a lot of teams that either haven't shot well or haven't shot well for part of the game. And it's really like, this is where numbers can be a little deceiving, right? Because like we watch the game and we're like, we're loose on the perimeter, man. We leave them a lot of space, a lot of time. And sometimes it has really brutalized us, like against Vermont, obviously at Carbondale, and then in this game in the second half. But a lot of games we've kind of gotten away with it, more or less. And I don't know if that's kind of made them complacent on the 3-point line or what. But yeah, it's an obvious vulnerability that if I were a good 3-point shooting team, I'd be looking to exploit for sure. But really the other key in this game, Zach, was turnovers.
Yeah.
And SLU coughed it up 18 times, only forced 6, and that translated into 29 points for NC State off those turnovers, with SLU just scoring 2 points off those 6 turnovers. 29-2 in points off turnovers is just a brutal differential. And you can also see it in field goal attempts. NC State 62 for the game, and SLU just 46 field goal attempts in the game. It's really hard to do that unless you're just a lockdown defensive team, and we know that's not the case here. So, there are your two very obvious statistics as to why this game went the wrong way. I'm wondering, Zach, like what else did you see in this one? Like what led NC State to take over the second half?
We did talk about, or Travis Ford did say, turnovers and not taking care of the ball and the guard, their pressure just getting to us. And it's frustrating because you see this in a lot of games where we just kind of bring the ball up slowly. And it's even more, okay, first of all, it's even more infuriating because you've got a coach who continuously year after year tells you that, oh, we want to play fast this year. We're going to play fast this year. I'm sorry, you have all your guys now. The only player you don't have right now is Abou Magassa, and I don't think you're worried about him running up and down the court. Yeah. So I don't know when are we going to run? We could have run. Hell, we're up against NC State. Let's run. Like let's get out and run. Let's start pressing them. Let's put pressure on them. I don't understand. And bringing the ball up, like, why do we have 4 dudes in the front court and a guy bringing up 1v1 in the back court? Like, help him out.
That's the other tempo issue here, right? Is like when they put that pressure on us and SLU just very readily coughed up the ball. Like what's our press break? Like have a press break and attack it, like don't sit back and hope that Medley can, bail you out of this thing and find somebody to hit with a long ball or something. It's like you need a crisp press break and you need to attack the press. And that's the kind of thing where you can really build a lead in the second half.
Yeah.
Instead of just like Ford complaining that they weren't even able to get into their sets. Well, yeah, you've got to get the ball up the floor.
You weren't able to get into your sets, yeah, because you have like it takes you forever. Yeah,
Right.
but even when we're in the half court, like even if we get the ball up quickly, it takes forever.
Yeah.
I mean, a certain Billikens.com poster likes to bitch and moan about the weave, and on one hand, I understand why you do it, but again, when it takes you 10 seconds to bring the ball up the court, we're not playing with a 35-second shot clock here anymore.
Right. Right. Yeah. And we had how many? Was it 2 times that we were actually called for a 10-second violation? I mean, how often do you even see that anymore?
Dude, we were at our best bringing the ball up when Brad Azawiro again, what's with the
I know. No, it actually it detects like a thumbs up.
Oh.
Yeah, I figured that out between the last episode and this one. It's a new feature.
Oh my God, I hate that.
So yeah, when Zach's talking, I'm just gonna kind of permanently, thumbs down it and get the little bubble.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
No, I think like the easiest time we brought up the court was when Brad Azawiro was bringing the ball up. Because the big man didn't have any interest.
Right.
Let's do that.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
Yeah. He just wants to get it downhill or get the ball out of his hands as fast as possible.
Yeah, I just don't understand. Why don't we have two guys? Why don't we set up like there's multiple things you can do. You can run. We used to do I mean, you saw it in the best Billiken teams. 11, 12, 13, 14. It was like they would either bring it back together against Havoc, or you would have a guy set a ball screen in the back court near half court. I mean, Azawiro seems like a great candidate.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, I can understand maybe not wanting Bruce to set a screen or, as a young guy
to pick up too many fouls or something.
Yeah, but it's
how about Azawiro just planting himself,
I mean, we saw
the circle.
I mean, we've seen it under McKillop's Davidson teams. The center will walk up with his hands up like this with the guy.
Mm-hmm.
And that, first of all, that should be called a moving screen. That's literally like running the wedge in football.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, we saw Bruce Zhang do that. He did it with Medley once, and I loved it. I was super excited. I was like, oh, are we going to do this now? Like, that's great. And then no.
Yeah.
It was a frustrating game altogether. But at least it was, they didn't try to like tease us with a comeback after losing the lead.
Well, which would have been better? Watching a 3-point lead turn into a 19-point deficit, or having this thing kind of go back and forth a little bit. I think I would have rather been a little more engaged.
No, I mean, I meant they didn't go into a 19-point deficit and then bring it back to like 4 and then give up like 6 threes in a row. And then, you know what I mean? Just,
yeah.
We've
seen that one before too.
Oh,
but the good news here, Zach, is Azawiro does look the part. I mean, I think he's everything we needed and then some so far. He led SLU with 18 points. He had 9 rebounds, 6 of 8 from the field, and what was even more promising to me, 6 of 7 from the line. I think he looked really good at times. He really attacks the basket, by the way. Like, that dude is going to dunk.
He is an absolute monster. I love watching him play. I think he might genuinely be in my favorite bigs category. He's fun.
He's got the potential for sure. And I mean, it's a small sample size. It's 2 games, but 2 very different opponents. And he's looked great.
Yeah, I thought he did really well against the big guy. I don't even remember. DJ Burns. I hate that guy. That guy
two
stinks.
Two DJs.
Yeah, I thought he did really well. I thought a lot of the fouls called against us with DJ were some bullshit.
Uh-huh.
I thought that Zhang straight up, like, that made no sense to me. every foul on him was like he would initiate the contact and it would knock our player out of correct position and he would just go right back and draw the foul. It's just I don't know. That's just he was a decent player. He had very good skill, but man, it sucks playing a guy like that.
I gotta say though, like overall, I've made the comment during this game, it's like they were not getting home cooking. I mean, I think especially in the first half, SLU was the beneficiary of some definite kind of 50-50 calls. And so I overall no gripes with the officiating. I thought there was some weirdness, sure, but no, I would say for what I've seen in an ACC gym before, I would take these officials at any time. I thought they were fine and definitely not a difference maker in any way.
Oh no, but I mean, it was. I thought in that first half that there were times where they could have been, but I mean,
Sure.
I really I thought anything other than like I thought some of the defense. I thought NC State was a bit, I thought they got with away with a little bit more in the backcourt or
Mhm.
on the guard defending, but not anything terrible. But I did think there was some really softies called on our players against Burns. I really liked
Yeah.
what we did on him most of the
Yeah,
night.
yeah. So Hargrove added 8 and 8 in this game. Jimerson really struggled, Zach. He finished with 7 points and went 1 of 8 from the field and 0 of 5 from three. Didn't get a lot of looks, didn't get a lot of good looks. And I don't know, what did you see in this game? Were we just failing him, not getting him enough screeners? He certainly was shooting, he was doing the thing, the catch high, release quick kind of
Yeah.
thing, whenever he did get a look, but I feel like he was just having a tough time getting free.
Yeah, I thought that a little bit, but then again, I thought some of it was he just wasn't on tonight. He just had a very, very bad game. And when you're, I guess, I mean, shooters do shoot, but at 0 for 5, it's tough to continue to go back there. And I mean, it's not, again, it goes back to being risk averse. And I think that's kind of an MO for the Billikens under Ford would be to not, it feels more like a Travis Ford team to try to see what else you can get going instead
Yeah.
of really trying to get Gibson hot.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. Meadows and Hughes were both active. Did you know before the game that Meadows was going to be available for this one? Because that was a surprise to me. But again, I was kind of offline all week.
I don't, I do not recall.
I like the way you delivered that. Well, Hughes, I don't know what's going on there. He didn't look good in this game. I don't know that he's all the way healthy. He just wasn't really much of a factor in this one. It's
No.
one of his, worst full games of the season. And I know he's had a couple partial games because he's been hurt. And maybe that was a factor here as well. But Meadows also not a huge factor in his comeback game, but I certainly did not expect to have him back this soon. And speaking of injuries, Thames was limited by ongoing issues with his ankle, I believe, and they said he'd be getting an MRI back in St. Louis. So we don't have word yet on his status, what it is now, what it'll be going forward, but we do have a little bit of a winter break here. So might be a little bit of an information vacuum, but hopefully time to get a lot of these guys healthy.
Uh, one thing that was discussed a little bit this week was the injury bug. Like
Yeah.
this seems to happen the last handful of years. I don't remember many injuries with Goodwin for like those teams. Like I don't know. Am I seeing stuff that's not there, or is this a normal, or is this an exorbitant amount of injuries for a team?
They do feel dinged up. I don't know. I mean, last season, did we have much of it? We just had Perkins who kind of wasn't 100%. We had
Thatch.
Thatch. Yeah, of course, of course.
God, I
Um,
forget. Like I think I just totally like d- just
wrote off Thatch.
no, I disassociated myself with that team at some point where it's like I
Yeah,
forgot that Thatch's injury was that team and not the year before.
right. So I look, I don't know. I mean, it's a with basketball, you've only got 13 scholarship players, right? So
Yeah.
if you've got three guys dealing with stuff all season, it feels like way worse than a normal season where you might have one guy out or something like that. I don't know. I don't have an answer for you there at all. I guess we could speculate. It feels like it though.
Yeah, it really does. I don't know if that's just proximity bias, and it might be. Oh man, what Dogger? Oh, Tim Dogger, Timmy D. He
Yeah,
when he I tell you what I will say about Tim Dogger. When he is great, he is great. When he is bad, he does some of the most careless things I've ever seen on a basketball court.
so I did accidentally skip over him. He had 17. He was 6 of 10 from the field, 6 of 8 from the line. So on paper, that all looks good.
Love it. I love
Yeah.
the stat line here.
Yeah, the stat line is good. But for some reason, Zach, it just doesn't always translate, right? Like when
Yeah,
the eye test and the stat line can be a little bit different.
it can be. I think the three things that drove me the most insane was I think he stole a rebound from I think Azawiro, and it ended up in the hands of
I
an
remember
NC
that one.
State.
Yeah.
Then there was he dropped a rebound and then dove on the floor for it,
Hmm.
and then kneecapped somebody doing that,
Hmm.
causing a foul. I think it was an and one, or it was a shooting foul. It was at least a shooting foul.
Yeah, I don't remember.
And then he goaltended on a shot that was clearly not going to make the hoop. It was gonna.
Yeah.
I don't even think it was. I don't even think it was gonna rebound up back towards the backboard. I think it was gonna rebound back out. But like, and it was clearly gonna be a goaltend. It was up there for a second and a half. I don't know. It's just there are moments where he just completely frustrates me to no end. But then there are parts where I'm like, I love you. You get to the hoop Goodwin, and I'm like, let's go. But then he'll dive at a player's knees and tear their ACL. I don't know. I don't know what to make of him. In my mind, you've got to be more of a heady player as a fifth year.
I think that's fair. I think that's fair. Shot selection, I will say, seems to have gotten a little bit better as
Yep.
the season has gone on. And I think we're seeing that in his percentages as well. That's gone up as the season has gone on a little bit. There's definitely, you're right, some decision making stuff overall. And you for a fifth year player, you want to see it be a little more cleaned up. No doubts. I think a lot of the fan base is kind of exasperated by him because you do
Yeah.
see the brilliance and the capability, and even in a game like this, to come away with 17 points is pretty impressive. So
Sure.
he's doing some things right and showing us flashes, and it just you just want to see him put it together for a good 40 minutes, you know?
5 of 6 from the free throw line, not bad.
Right.
That
Yeah.
was good for him. Like, because he's not been a great free throw shooter. I think again, I think I would I would bet a lot of Billiken fans expect not only similar things, rebounding and defending that, Goodwin could do just from the body type, but also the negatives, again, based on the body type, based on the play style. So, I mean, I think when he steps to the line, you immediately like, oh man, here we go. We're back in 2018 again.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I just hope he keeps making progress. He's done some things. What was the game? Was it Hofstra or Drake? What was the game where he was moving the ball really well? Wound up with like 5 assists. So
I
there
think
there
it had
are
to be
there have been
Hofstra.
like kind of progress markers throughout. I think it was throughout the year where you kind of feel like, okay, certain things are clicking, and I hope it keeps going that direction. But he is good for a couple of forehead slapping moments a game for sure too.
Yeah. Um, do Pete, let's talk about this Ben Fredrickson article.
Yeah. Did you? So I finally get a chance to read this today, and he made a few key points that I would kind of pull out of this. And number one, he said maybe this kind of, I think it's 12 to 14 days. I can't remember what our break will end up being. He said maybe this break is a good thing. SLU is 3-6 in the past 9 games, and those 3 wins came by a combined 5 points. He reiterated the kind of the back half of the article was all about Chris May and his public vote of confidence in Ford last March, wondering whether that was the right thing to do or not at that time. A direct quote from the article, and this is the writer, not May, not anybody, but he said,
Damn.
I know last season was disappointing. This season has suggested it could get flat out bad. He talked about the belief among the fan base that Ford has really raised the floor, but this season is really calling that into question.
Yeah.
And so I think he just kind of outlined at a high level that Ford and May are in kind of a fragile position here based on their public posturing previously, and then based on how this season has gone. Coming off such a disappointing season, there's a lot of questions that I think he's just kind of starting to raise with this article, which overall I thought was pretty well written for somebody who just kind of pops in and out on SLU a few times a season.
Yeah, I like that. I thought about that today, and it's funny because I thought about it because I kind of skimmed the article and got like the major points. But I thought about that because this program and what I want my Festivus airing of grievance on a macro basis, I think, is distilled down to that we've said they've raised the floor, and on some level, I think that's true. But is it really true? I don't know. But this program just it feels like we're never going to lose to like a Kennesaw State, right? A team that's utterly awful, not a local team that punches up at us, which we did. Like I think SIUE is a different matter. I think, but like I don't feel like we are ever going to punch up. Like we're never going to reach up and beat a team like NC State. And that's not even reaching up necessarily. Like NC State is an average ACC team.
Correct.
Teams that aspire to be top 4 A10 should never be non-competitive anywhere against a team like NC State. Like that's a game where you take to the wire anywhere, whether it's on the road or at home. And it just never felt like we were good. Like I didn't think we had a chance going into that game. And that should never be the case. I should never go into a game thinking we don't have a chance. Or okay, so my heart says we have a chance, right? But my brain keeps saying no, we have no chance. And that's not how this program should. That's not how this program should have been under Brad Soderberg, and it wasn't. Like I don't know if this is like the childhood like nostalgia, but I always felt like when we were playing Arizona, I felt like we could win that game. When we play Gonzaga, I was like, okay, I think we could potentially go in and steal one from them. I don't feel that way with Travis. I don't.
Yeah, well, and part of it is just because it hasn't happened. I don't think we have any top 25 wins. We really don't have, and we broke this down, I think, last season on the show. We really don't have a good road record at all. Like the road record is really bad. So it's these road games against good teams where you just have no faith whatsoever that we're gonna pick one off. I there we're in season 8 now, so there's enough numbers behind that, right? To sort of justify that feeling. It's not just us being, scared.
Yeah.
Like there's a justification for what the feeling is and where it comes from. So I think that's kind of a problem is like, yeah, going into these games and just not expecting anything good is that's not good. As a fan, it's not good for your program when we just assume a loss coming into a game. And even though I don't think that's the case in the locker room or anything like that, it's a scarred fan base, right? To never have any confidence. Say what you will about Dayton, and I say it every episode. I hate Dayton, hate their
Hate
fans,
them.
hate everything about them, wish the worst for them. They do not go into the games like that. Their fans going like, we have no chance. We're going on the road at Northwestern this year. We've got no chance.
No,
Played
we're gonna
SMU on the
travel
road.
there.
Yeah, we've got no chance against these guys. Like they never do that. And SLU fans are just like, well, it hasn't happened under Ford. We're not going to beat a good team on the road, a ranked team uh, anywhere. So I don't know. I think there's good reason for these questions to be asked, and
Yeah.
if it's taken 8 seasons for the local media to notice, that's fine. But it's real and it's there, and it's a shame because I'm kind of sick of feeling that way.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the question that I don't think, like for some reason, I don't think Chris May, and I don't think whoever else needs to make the decision, I don't think they get that. I don't think they have this, like, I, I,
He talked about May's his attitude has been one of relentless positivity. And that's fine. And I understand he's a guy trying to build culture, but like, don't lie to my face and say everything's fine and everything's great and we should be confident and this is what we want. It's like, no, because like I've been a fan of this program a long time and I've seen some highs and I've seen a lot of lows. And you just got to be straight with me, Like I know what I'm seeing right now. I know what I'm watching. I understand when there are signs that things aren't going well. And so relentless positivity is a fine posture for an executive, a CEO, a boss, a leader to have, but you need to be honest with that as well. And that's kind of what I'm not seeing. He did say if there is a continued fizzle during conference play, I don't think the next vote of confidence for Ford can possibly come as easily or quickly as it did last season. Not without some whoa moments in recruiting or something else that suggests next season will look a lot different. The best evidence would be an increasing competitiveness throughout A10 play, a coming together instead of a falling apart. And so, Zach, it's to be seen what the next 18 games of conference play look like.
I'm not
But
looking forward to them.
I mean,
Dude,
I
like I
am,
get it, but like
I
that's how,
am, and I'm not.
yeah, that's how, because it doesn't, like my heart wants to say these are the Billikens, these are my Billikens. Like they can win, they can go on a run in the A10 tournament. It's still possible. Travis Ford's the right guy. Everybody else is an idiot. Like these are like, no, it hasn't happened, and I have nothing. I have nothing to tie this irrational hope to. I don't have it, and I I can't. My heart can't even justify it at this point. Like that's sad.
Yeah.
Uh
Yeah, I know, I know. I think he's right though. I think like I think what he's kind of saying here is this conference season does feel a little like there are more stakes than ever before for Ford and May. And we'll set our speculation about their contract situations aside. But it does feel like, at least in terms of expectations and the long term, there's a lot here to say, all right, guys, it's time to show us something here.
yeah.
Because I think his comment about recruiting is an
You read my mind because I wanted to get
that
into that.
we have one commitment. I like him. I'm excited about it, but just one, right? And we didn't. The way last spring went didn't give me a whole lot of confidence in what we can do on the transfer market, because we missed a lot of targets on the transfer market before we ended up with this roster. And so I would say that what he has to contrast us against right now is Mizzou, right? And they're probably having what you would call a disappointing season. I don't think they're what, like 7-5 now or something like that.
Yeah.
They've probably lost a couple games they'd like to have back. They just got blown out by Illinois the other night in St. Louis, but They have like a top 3 recruiting class coming in. Like they put together a major NIL budget. They're landing 4 and 5 stars all over the place. I think they've got 5 commitments, maybe 6. And like they're all legit dudes, right? So he's getting this season as like a good a grace period from the fan base because they know what's coming.
And he, yeah, the NCAA tournament.
When you look at SLU, you go, okay, we've got one guy signed. I think he's good. And we're losing 4 fifth-year players. At least.
I feel like we're stuck in this in the transfer portal loop.
Yeah. There's going to be a lot of teams who feel like that for a while, by the way.
Yeah. I don't
Because there are going to be the guys like those first targets every season where you get excited about and you go, oh, he'd be perfect here.
Mhm.
And then they wind up going to a K-State or a Wake Forest or whatever. And we're a couple, you know, we're a little bit short of where we needed to be to land those guys. And I think that's going to be, we're going to have a lot of nerve-wracking springs because of that, you know, unless our NIL game changes very quickly, it's going to be like that for a while.
But also like we're not so that like not that we're stuck in transfer portal battles, but like stuck in a position where Travis Ford keeps feeling like he needs to win now, and he's going to keep bringing in transfers and grad transfers, and it's just going to feel like it just feels like we're not building anything.
Sure. Yeah,
because he had his chance to build something and continue to build on it, and the roster construction, he ran out of old players to keep around. Like I still don't. I still think this is a heavily veteran roster, but it's a bunch of mercenaries.
Yeah, I mean, it had to work last season, and it didn't. We always circle back to that. He shot his shot last season, and it didn't work. And now, yeah, you're right. Like, it's one thing to rebuild if you're a third-year coach or something like that. You came into a team that had some veterans, and you brought in some transfers, and you had a couple competitive seasons. Now you got to restock. But like when that's happening in year 7 and 8. And coming off a team that was disappointing, not a team that was a tournament team, that's where it's a real problem. And yeah, it does feel like we're in a loop. But the frustrating thing about that loop, Zach, is we're not landing our first choice transfers. Right? It's if you're getting the top targets out of the portal, you can put a really good field or you can really put a good team on the court next season. But you can't do that when you don't have a budget to be competitive with these other teams. So, look, I like some of the dudes we've got. Ezewiro clearly was a real find for us. I think we can be good. It's just like I'm glad that these questions are being posed in his column that gets a little bit more attention, you know, than maybe our normal beat writer would, or questions from the fans, right? So I think it's good that the local media is starting to ask these questions about May and Ford and put a little pressure, you know, a little additional pressure under them.
Yeah, it's about time. I had it actually pegged for the first time. I figured it was going to be January 4th or 5th after they celebrated the Mizzou Bowl win. I figured they'd already be on the case. I didn't think they'd be on the case already, and there's a pleasant surprise. Yeah,
college football, some of these teams have like a month-long lull before the bowl game. There's only so much you can write, you know, about the upcoming bowl game. So yeah, there was a natural lull in there.
Yeah, oh, by the way, if you look at the STL Today Sports, I mean, we have nobody to be mad at but ourselves. It's recommended for you is Illinois dominates Mizzou, Illinois dismantles Mizzou, Ben Fred, bragging rights test, Brazilian hair remove. Oh no, that's sponsored. No, I went a long way for that joke. That joke was, I figured that joke about halfway through number 13 Illinois. That's what I came with that one.
I'm proud of you.
Yep. Right. Anyway, Pete, I've decided also while you were talking that I think we're going to talk about the bigs next week because we've got no game next week.
Okay.
I think we just do. I don't think we have any game next week. I think we just go if we do a full episode because who knows because it is another holiday weekend.
Uh-huh.
We should do a what if and the bigs discussion.
Yeah, I like that.
Cool. Uh, you know what else is cool? 2 Men in a Garden.
It is cool, Zach. And you know what's really cool is when you're in town and you pop into Straub's Market in Webster Groves and find their harissa sauce on the shelf. But what is not cool in terms of the spice level is the sauce itself. I had some today. Um, and man, oh man, with lunch, I forgot how spicy that stuff is. In the meantime, because like it's been a few months since I've had it in the fridge, and the last brand I had was probably the most common one. I don't remember what it's called. It's got like a black and gold label that you would find at Schnucks or Kroger or whatever your local supermarket is. And even they're spicy. They have a mild and a spicy. Even the spicy one is not as spicy as the 2 Men in a Garden one. I got to hand it to them. This stuff really has a kick to it. I love the flavor profile, the balance of it. I had myself a little kind of Mediterranean lunch here with some leftovers. And it was fantastic. It hit the spot, went great with my pita and rice and hummus and man, oh man,
Peter's
good
Pita.
stuff. That's right. It was really good stuff, and I can't recommend it enough. I do hope if anyone's listening from the company that they put it on the website sometime soon so I can order it regularly. But if not, you should be able to find it. If not at Straub's, maybe at some other local stores too. I did go into a Schnucks this week as well, and I did find the salsas in there, but not the harissa sauce. So anyway, if you see that stuff on shelves and get a chance, pick some up. It's great. Strongly recommend it. In the meantime, check out all their other stuff at 2minutagarden.com.
Let's go around the A10. Another light week, but an interesting week.
Yeah.
May the 18th, Duquesne beats the Bradley Braves 69-67. Nice, by the way.
Yeah, that was on Monday the 18th, by the way, not May the 18th.
Whatever.
On Tuesday, the 19th of December, George Mason 84, Bridgewater College of Virginia 60.
I hate these. I hate these.
I know. And you want to beat a team like that by more than 24, by the way. Letting up 60 to them is not great. Loyola 72, Charleston Southern 59, and I'll also take Wednesday the 20th before handing you a big Thursday slate. Dayton 91 beat Oakland 67.
That would be Oakland, Michigan, not Oakland, California.
Correct.
Thursday the 21st, Charleston 89, St. Joe's 82. You hate to see it. Hate to see it. Richmond 72, Buffalo 66, Davidson 62, South Carolina Upstate 59. This one, I was locked into this one because I was like, come on, SC Upstate. Let's go.
No kidding.
That's one of those teams that you like start with in college hoops in your dynasty. That's also there's a few of them in here this week.
If I'm not mistaken, Upstate has the smallest arena in Division One.
I believe so.
It's either them or Charleston Southern. They're in the same conference and they have the two smallest.
New Hampshire 81, Rhode Island 71. Why play this game? What do you get out of this? Rhythm?
I guess. Confidence.
Yeah. Loyola 107, Rosemont 41.
Yes. Another school I had not heard of, but I guess is in Pennsylvania.
Yeah. Another game that surprised me was George Washington 79, Alcorn State 75. Wow. We are once again back to the A10. This is the A10 where the good are good and the bad are just horrible.
Yeah. It's full sicko mode this day.
Fordham back to being bad. Central Connecticut 82, Fordham 80. Georgia Tech 73, UMass 70. By the way, there are three teams on here that you start with in college hoops.
That's right. Yeah.
I'll let you guess who the next two are, and they're all in the next. They're all on Friday and Saturday.
On Friday and Saturday. Well,
Yeah.
I'm going to say one of them is who lost to St. Bonaventure. 90 for the Bonnies and 64 for Binghamton. Is that one of them, Zach?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I'm going to say the other one is on the other end of this loss. VCU 75, Maryland Eastern Shore 51.
Where my uncle taught college for a hot minute. Yeah. UMass.
And then George Mason 69, Tulane 66.
Nice.
So
Yeah, this one was one that probably could have gone Tulane's way. Tulane was about to win this one.
yeah, they're not a bad team this season either. But
I like
yeah,
Ron Hunter, mostly
Yeah.
because he fell out of the chair that one time.
I forgot about that. I like Tulane too. I like their campus. I like the city, obviously, very cool. And then Saturday the 23rd, this one came in after midnight, but I think probably would have been a Friday game had it not been in Hawaii. UMass 100, Portland 78, and then Santa Clara 81, Duquesne 73.
That Santa Clara is the program that tried to signal to Billiken fans that Jim Cruz may not be the right answer. May have
That's
not
what
been the right answer.
that's what they're known for in basketball, not Steve Nash. It's the Jim Cruz warning.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. You remember that game, right?
Zach, I vaguely do, but there's a lot from that time that I kind of put out of my head,
That's a
my
good
mind.
point. This was, I think it was the first time when Jim Cruz was in. I don't remember if it was his first full season as head coach or as interim, but it was the first game I think we
They
played.
gave us a scare, right?
They beat us.
Oh, they did. They did.
Yeah, they did beat us.
Okay. All right.
I don't remember. It was like the first game that was like worth a damn, and we lost it. Wednesday, January 3rd at Loyola. So we're gonna wait a week to preview. So I guess we'll do the big man talk. We'll preview Loyola and maybe get into a what if we got time.
Yeah.
I think that's what we're gonna do.
Yeah.
Billiken women's basketball. Again, we talked about it last week. Quietly, this team has begun to slide through the non-conference slate, and that continued this past week with an 87-81 loss at Illinois State on Tuesday the 19th.
Yeah, I was able to watch a good chunk of this one, Zach, and it was a frustrating game. I mean, anytime SLU would kind of swing the momentum, get it a little bit closer. I mean, they would get to within 3, 4, 5. Illinois State would either hit a couple threes in a row or force a couple turnovers or both, and then they would get the lead back up to 3 or 4 possessions. So it was 87-81 final, but they were up by 9-12 for a lot of this game, in stretches. And then SLU would chip away. They would take it back out. So, I'm not sure if this game went on forever, if they ever would have caught up, just the kind of the way it went. It actually looked pretty good after the first quarter with SLU taking a 21-19 lead. They out-rebounded Illinois State and didn't turn it over much. But then ISU scored 29 in the second quarter. They hit 4 or 5 threes. They got to the free throw line 14 times and hit 11 of them. SLU really got into foul trouble, and I think that's I'll circle back to that point, one of the big factors in this game. Third quarter was super ugly. Neither team shot well. SLU went 0 for 6 from 3. And then they made up a little ground in the fourth, but not nearly enough. So fouls in this one, Zach, 31 on SLU, 16 on Illinois State. SLU had 2 players foul out, 2 more with 4 fouls, and 3 more with 3. I don't want to say like, hey, it's on the refs, but like that second quarter, the way that went, that kind of screwed him here. It put him in a tough spot to manage that roster the rest of the game.
Yeah, you never want to blame the refs, and you always want to kind of take control of your own destiny. But I mean, 31-16 in fouls that's a lot. I don't.
And it's one of those things like if we wound up with more fouls than the other team, if we wind up, I should say, it's fine. Like Slew plays kind of an aggressive style sometimes defensively, the way Martinez and Calhoun are out on the perimeter. And we do have some size down low and not all these teams have the same type of physicality. And I get it, but like to double them up, that was just it's not how this game went. It just didn't feel right at all. So I don't know. I know without getting into like individual calls, I just thought it was a little lopsided there.
I think women's basketball is saturated with fouls in the paint. Like
Yeah.
there's just so many. It's
I
just such
I,
a different game.
I agree with that. They call contact a lot more. They are a lot more contact than they let go in a men's game, I think.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, very, very odd.
It's nice to see Brooklyn Gray's name come up here because I feel like she hasn't necessarily been on our radar the last few games after really impressing early in the season.
She scored 18. She led Slew in minutes with 35. So yeah, she did have a nice game here. Peyton Kennedy also had a nice bounce back game. She had 23 points, went 9 of 15 from the field and 5 of 10 from three. We really needed her to come back, to have a chance in a lot of these games, and she just wasn't feeling it recently. Kylie McMakin had 19, but she was only 5 of 18 from the field, despite going 3 of 6 from three and 6 of 7 from the line. Um, and then Zach, friend of the show, Julia Martinez, 9, 9, and 8, flirted with the triple double, 2 steals, but she was one of the ones who fouled out in 31 minutes. These Illinois State refs just did not like the aggressive attacking style of their Illinois native from up north. Didn't appreciate her style at all.
No. Tira Simon added in 7 and 7 with 3 blocks. Um, the last moves the Billikens to 5 and 8 overall. It's their third straight. I think these games have been against solid competition, but I think it's cause to worry. You're not necessarily peaking at the right time, but you also, again, much like the men's side, have some weeks off here.
Yeah, and this is the third of 3 straight road games. I want to say it was Carbondale, Green Bay, and then now Illinois State in a row. Green Bay is the one that probably you would have penciled in as a loss given how good they are. These other two though are winnable games. I want to these are two, especially after last season. I would like to think SLU would have the confidence to kind of beat these teams even on the road. So that's a little bit tougher. They're in the top 200 in the net, pretty close to that 200 line though, um, which actually puts them near the middle of the pack in the A10. But they have a tough conference slate this season thanks to last season's performance. They were kind of given a tougher schedule from the league. So you're playing teams like I think they start with Rhode Island and they'll
Yep.
have them twice, just to kind of give you an idea of they're not going to have the easiest road in the A10 possible. So something to be aware of as they head into conference play. It's going to be a tough one, even though they probably still project to be a top half team in the league, even after a disappointing non-conference. So I don't know, Zach. I hope they kind of find their mojo again, like they did during A10 play last season.
Yeah, me too. I don't like the long time off here. I don't know. On the men's side, I guess right now it works out with the injuries,
Hmm.
but I mean, I think again we're scarred. 2020,
Yeah,
baby.
yeah,
It's 2021. I just keep playing. Like, I don't know.
yeah.
Anyway. Like you said, next up for them will be Saturday the 30th versus Rhode Island. That's a perennial A10 power. And I think they are what are they sitting at? What's Rhode Island sitting at?
So they're at like 80-ish in the net, I want to
Seven
say.
and five. Yeah.
Yeah, so they've played a tough schedule.
Oh yeah.
They're a good team. Obviously, they've got what's her name, Tammy. There's 75 in the net right now at 7 and 5. They're not a great road team. They are tough at home. But yeah, they've played a tougher schedule than most of the teams in the league, I think. And um, we do have them at home, I believe, to start. Do I have that right? But
No, we will. Yeah, we do. Sorry, I'm reading
yeah,
on. Yep. Shoot me.
yeah, it is at home. And then we'll go on the road for a couple at Loyola and UMass as we get further into January. But yeah, Zach, it's gonna be tough. The road ahead. I think the overall league, is probably comparable to what it was last year. Maybe slightly better top to bottom. Davidson is actually really good this year on the women's side. They're like 11-1. Richmond, St. Joe's, VCU, they all have 10 or 11 wins and only 1 to 3 losses. So there are actually some teams that have a shot to play their way into an at-large bid. That's not going to happen for all of them. But obviously, it's just not that kind of league. And a lot of them have played fairly soft schedules. But there are 5 teams within the top 75 of the RP or of the net rankings. Sorry. So I think this is a pretty strong league in the top half, and SLU's definitely got to regain that momentum from last season.
Definitely. We'll see. That'll be the 30th on ESPN Plus. See if I can't get out to that one. Um, Thank you all again for commenting on YouTube the last few episodes, and keep it up. Happy Festivus, Merry Christmas, happy holidays, and as always, Pete, go Bills.
Go Bills.